In trading, I don't think it's necessary for you to defend your approach other than to just convince yourself. Do you?
Two traders, Darren and Walter, pull back the curtain on profitable trading systems, consistent money management, and profitable psychological triggers. Welcome to the Two Traders podcast.
Welcome to Two Traders. It's Walter here. Hello, Darren. How are you?
I'm very good, Walter. We've got a snowstorm from Siberia today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've heard, actually, a few traders told me, I think it was yesterday or earlier today here in Asia, that they're like, it's snowy London and snowy, like, so is this unusual, is it?
It has become, yeah. I think when I was a kid, it seemed to snow a lot, but now it's kind of unusual, and you know, an inch of snow can completely shut the UK down, so...
That's awesome. That's awesome. I remember I went to graduate school in a really mountainous region, and there were some people from California there, like some students from California, and I'll never forget first week of school, which is in the States, it's like last week of August or first week of September. I think it's usually the first week of September, right? So it's kind of the end of summer.
Yeah.
6 feet of snow, first week of school, and you know, and there was this poor girl from California. She left and never came back. she totally quit. She totally quit. She just couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? She just didn't know what to do. She freaked out, had a breakdown, and just left.
Yeah.
it's all
like, relative.
So it's not just the civil servants that go crazy, I guess. So what does that mean for you, Darren? Like when it's snowing, does it change your routine or anything, or just make it harder to get around?
It makes me want to bring my flight out of the UK forward. I don't mind it, actually. It doesn't really affect me, and it's kind of nice for a bit of a change, to be honest, you know, because weather in the UK is very vanilla, you know. It's never like really, you know, we don't really get extremes here. We're kind of on the scale of like natural disasters, we're kind of right in the middle, you know. We don't really get anything extreme here. It's just quite funny watching people's reaction to it, though, you know, because, you know, like I say, we've had an inch of snow and the whole country's going berserk, whereas, you know, somewhere in Scandinavia, it happens every hour, and they seem to like deal with it, you know.
Yeah, I guess thinking about that, it's kind of like trading, like when you first start trading, you kind of react to every little thing. Oh, I've got a great winner, or I had a terrible loss, or whatever. And then over time, it just changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the big events to us, everything's relative, isn't it? You know.
Like, I mean, I remember thinking when I first started trading that I did something wrong. That's why that last trade didn't go well. And now I don't think that way at all. You know, are there some things that you look at differently now?
Yeah, I think the whole, you know, especially stuff like cause and effect, I don't try and examine every winning and losing trades and consider it significant anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're more focused on learning how to deal with it yourself, I guess.
Well, yeah, and just being much more, you know, thinking in bigger numbers and groups of events, you know, rather than if you have that sort of entry that just perfectly went your way and like blasted through your TP. When you start out, those sort of things they stand out, and you try and work out, well, you know, what did you do then, and how can I repeat that? And you know, as you go on, those individual trades are like, oh, that was interesting, you know. But you know, you start to say, well, you know, you look at the last 3 months rather than the last specific trade.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw there was a comment on the forum trader. She's just had a really big winner, and she's pretty excited about it. And I just said, you know, that's great, right? But I think it's important to also remember that you can take the perfect trade and it can be a loser too. So it's not, you know what I mean? It's not, you don't want to put too much on one trade. It's excellent when you feel things turning around and all that. That's great. But at the same time, the very next trade she takes, she could do everything exactly the same as she did on this one, and yet it's a loser, and that doesn't mean she should change anything, right?
Yeah. I think one of the best things you can learn from big winners or runs of winners is noticing how you react to it, because it's something that I notice very much when I'm in a really sweet spot and the market's just right, and I can't do anything wrong, and I have a long run of winners, everything's just perfect. That tends to be the time that I make most of my mistakes. And I did it just yesterday, actually. The euro yen at the moment is perfect for me. It's pretty much one directional. It's in a fairly strong downtrend. And I was hitting about 75-80% win rate for the week, which is, way above my average. And I skipped the next trade. I was feeling so good. I skipped the next trade. And obviously, what happens. It did another run of winners that I missed out on. So I think, that's probably a more important thing to look at when you have a winner. It's not what you did on the trade, it's what you do afterwards, how you react to that.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like you're trying to trick yourself and give yourself reasons and excuses to do things differently. And really, you should be looking for signs that you're doing things differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing though. I remember. I think you've talked about it before too, where it depends on your trading system or your style of trading, what your big, and really what you believe in, and how you deal with the market. What your challenge is. It could be that your challenge is you want to take a bunch of trades and you have to restrain yourself, but it also might be you have to push yourself to take the very next trade instead of trying to find a reason not to take it. So, for example, you get gun shy when you have lots of losers in a row, right? This is something that I think you've mentioned before, that when you have these systems where you're kind of always in the market or nearly always in the market, one thing that comes up is, oh man, I don't want to take another loser. You know what I mean? Like, do I really have to take this signal? And then if you don't take it, of course, that's the one. And then you're like, oh, that could have made my week.
Yeah. It's it's so hard to give trading advice, because like you're saying, it's very individual thing, and it's never black and white. Every element has shades of grey in it, and I think if you can at least accept that in your mind, you can buy into that concept. I think that can help you a lot. And, I think trying to see it as black and white is probably, a big mistake to make. And that's why it's really hard to give specific trading advice. And I think you need to look at the big picture and the big simple ideas rather than trying to look at it like physics, where there's a problem and there's like one solution and it's just a case of working out that solution. I think that's kind of one of the hardest things to take on board. And then when you do develop your own style, you kind of have to then go against it, go against that idea and say, okay, I don't trade with any analysis at all. Okay, I'm just running the numbers and probabilities, and what's happened running up to my particular setup is bears no relevance to how I trade at all. Okay, so I'm not working out what the market's likely to do next based on what it's just done, but you can do that, So I can't sit here and say, look, don't do analysis because it doesn't work, because I'm making that idea work for me. I can't do that because it is so grey. It's not black and white, and you can do analysis and make it work. Which makes it a very hard thing to advise people on.
Right. Do you think that you can help somebody discover where they are? Like, hearing you describe this, it reminds me of sort of the debate in psychology about personality. Like, how can you possibly give somebody a personality type? People are so unique, right? Like, how can you possibly say that there are 5 types of people or whatever, 17 types of people or 32 types of personality when, people are so diverse? But in a sense, I guess it's exactly what you say. It depends on how broad you want to go. Like, you can say that, yeah, there are many, many different infinite types of people, but in general, some people are more outgoing than others. Some people are more conscientious than others. And, that's kind of the way that they approach personality typing and personality inventories. Would you say that that's kind of that could also apply to trading types or trader types?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is kind of how we should approach trading, ask broad groups and broad ideas, Don't say that 3R risk to reward is the best risk to reward. Say a positive risk to reward can be an advantage. You don't look for the best risk to reward. You work in the field of a positive risk to reward being an advantage, and I think that's where big ideas come from.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, in something like trading.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I put together a webinar the other day, and I was looking for discussions on the internet forums of traders, and just to pull out examples of where people are saying, no, you're wrong, you can never do this or you can never do that in trading, because it's so prevalent. I don't know why, but it's just funny to me. It's funny to me that there are people out there, and trading it's not unique. I'm sure if you were to look at politics or I don't know, religion or any other hot button topic, you can come up with gun control or abortion or whatever. You can find these sorts of arguments where people just get locked in to their approach, and there really isn't anything that you can say dissuade them. They're always going to hold that tight. In fact, one of the interesting things I found in the research is that when you give somebody information, like I say, Darren, here's this that shows that trend lines, like this is a study of all these trades and trend line trading works or whatever, I say that. But like what happens is, it's interesting when you give people evidence, they actually hold to their beliefs stronger. And like the classic example was that in the Iraq War, the second Iraq War, when the U.S. was going in, and every time Colin Powell who was the Secretary of Defense in the United States at the time, every time he spoke, it would make the euro jump around, right? And so he was basically the news for the currencies. When he spoke, everyone was trying to figure out if he was saying that they were going to go to war, or did they find weapons of mass destruction. And they talked to these people who believed that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and when they couldn't find them, they just said, well, that just proves that Saddam Hussein's hiding them. You know what I mean? It's so true. Yeah. And it's the same thing with trading. Like, we just hold to our beliefs, and it's hard for us to actually take the other side or see it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of evidence that, the smarter you are, that becomes even worse. It's even harder to change your opinion, because you just become more skilled at supporting your own beliefs and your own evidence. You become really skilled at telling a story that basically confirms what you believe and disses everything else, which is good for me. I'm happy with that.
I think the key is to separate the theory from the evidence. I think that's the key. I mean, people will take these debates personally and take them as personal attacks. But I think if you can just tease apart the theory from the evidence and just say, okay, well, here's my theory, here's what I think's going on here, and here's the evidence to support it, and then you can let other evidence come up and weigh it and say, well, that doesn't fit the theory. Well, what does that evidence suggest? Does it suggest that my theory is wrong, or what's going on here? I mean, just sort of the scientific way of. That's what we're meant to do in science. I don't think that actually happens in science, but that's what they'll tell you in the textbooks that science does. So first of all, do you even need to do that? Like, is it necessary? Like, I don't think it is. In trading, I don't think it's necessary for you to defend your approach other than to just convince yourself. Do you?
No, but people do it, don't they? People do it a lot.
They want to be a winner. They want to be on the winning side, right? They want to be
I think anyone who says this, trend lines don't work, support and resistance don't work, price action doesn't work. If you say stuff like that's not going to work, then I think you've got the wrong mindset.
Right. So what should you be thinking? Like, this is the evidence, or I don't believe it's useful. Is that really the idea? Like, would you say, like I say to you, Darren, look, the New Zealand dollar bounced off of this support level that, you know, goes back 12 months. You know, what do you say about this support level? And then would you say, well, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it bounced off there. I'm not going to use it. It's not my approach.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, if you're going to say something doesn't work, then why are you saying it doesn't work? Have you got any evidence to back that up? Have you got proof that it doesn't work? If you can back it up with evidence, then, you know, you can probably at least align it with some sort of probabilities, you know.
Yeah.
I would argue that support and resistance is 50-50, but I would base that on, you know, my examination of support and resistance. You know, if you can enter randomly, then, you know, surely anything can be made to work. You know, if you can enter randomly with other elements, you know, controlling how you trade, then you know, surely anything can work. See what I mean? It's a really difficult debate to get into, you know. I mean, you could come to trading with a very strict, you know, belief that, look, these elements that I'm using, they work and nothing else works. And you could be profitable trading that way, but you could also be wrong. And I think that kind of sets you up for difficulties in the long term to have that kind of really fixed mindset.
Is it because trying to be right gets in the way of trading, of profitable, you know, making profits from the markets? Is that the issue?
Yeah, because the evidence suggests that, you know, at some point you're going to be wrong. And if you were so bought into the idea that you were 100% right, then it's going to be very difficult to deal with those periods where you're wrong. Whereas if you come with the mindset where you know that you're going to be wrong, you know there's going to be periods where you perform worse than you planned or your data suggested, then, you know, you're less likely to make bad reactions to those periods.
Yes. And I think that's why, like, I'll hear traders say, "Hey, I've done this and I back tested that, and these are the results." And then they'll say, "Well, so I need to fix this. So I'm working on, you know, obviously my win rate's not high enough. I need to do this, and that." And then I'll say, "Wait, why? Why do you need to do that? Why?" And the answer, really, the answer that we're getting at is because you want to be right, because you want the satisfaction of being right. Really, that's what it comes down to, I think. Yeah. So okay. So one of the things I was just thinking about, like when I first started trading, one of my big mistakes was I would have trades that I would be languishing over and over days or whatever, and they would be going against me, and I'd like just keep moving the stop. And I think that's because I didn't want to be wrong. I wanted the trade to be right. I wanted it to, you know. So what ended up happening is I kept increasing the risk on these positions from what I had originally intended to risk.
Moving the stop away.
Yeah, moving it away. So, like, for example, you know, I remember one where I was in on the Canadian dollar. I think it was a buy trade on the USD CAD, and then I got on a flight, and when I got to the other side, I scrambled, found internet, and I'm like, I got to just move the stop a little bit further so I can get, you know, so it can bounce here and then I'll be all right, you know, and that sort of thing. And I just did that too often. And I'm not like today, I actually, it really doesn't matter to me if I mean, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter because it's never fun to take a loss, but it's not nearly the big deal that it was when I first started trading. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you start, you plan what's going to happen, don't you? And it's very hard to kind of give up on that outcome, you know. So when you see it coming close to your stop, you'll still be convinced that it's going to turn around and hit your profit target. And yeah, you know, you'll do anything to kind of hold on to that outcome that you've already bought into. I think you just kind of have to get more comfortable with losing much more, you know.
So how do you? I agree. I totally agree. But how do you do it? Like, Is there a shortcut? Like, do you just have to take a lot of trades and like grow lines on your face, or what do you do? Like, what's the trick? I don't know. I mean, I'm asking you because I can't figure it out.
I don't know really. I don't know what it takes. It takes time. I think it takes time to become comfortable with losing. It always feels much greater than it is as well. I mean, you can back test 45% win rate, 50 to 50% win rate strategy all you like, but in live trading it will feel like you're losing way more than you did in your test, even if you're perfectly in line with what your data suggested.
That's so true.
It will just feel 3 losses on the trot in a 50% win rate will just feel completely wrong.
It's so true. Yeah, it's so true.
It will, and I think you just kind of have to battle through that. And I think half the problem is we try and do that on our own, I really think if you teamed up with somebody with the same strategy and had that dialogue with someone as it was happening, rather than just being on your own, sat in your room on your own, actually experiencing the losses, I think that's something that can help a lot. But it's an unusual scenario. I think the majority don't trade like that. And I find, recently a trader I know started trading with his wife, and they're not trading exactly the same strategies, but similar strategies, and they both seeing an improvement in their results. And I just wonder whether there's like a bit of a dialogue going backwards and forwards there. And it comes to this idea of when you express your emotions rather than just internalizing them, when you can actually talk about them, it seems to kind of calm everything down. That's something you could try.
Yeah. Have you read the Trading Tribe book by Ed Sequoia, the one where
No.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes for everybody. But I think we talked about it in one of the earlier episodes. But he basically said exactly what you said. He said, it's the emotions, getting those emotions out that's going to help you. And his whole Trading Tribe concept is that you go to these tribes. It's free to meet them, to meet with these groups, and you just experience the emotions so that you don't have to play out these little dramas in your life or in your trading or whatever. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And I think writing can do that I think writing can definitely do that for some people, but he has a stronger argument, which is, look, the reason why, you're, and this isn't funny at all, but the reason why you're like sitting there crying into your keyboard because you lost too much money on the euro is because you're not crying with your family members or whatever in your everyday life. So what happens is you kind of set up these little dramas in different scenarios so that you do experience those emotions. And one easy way to do that is to set yourself up, you're trading that way. So it's kind of like this subconscious way of letting off steam or whatever. So his argument is, look, you just do this instead. Just go to these tribe meetings. It's a safe place. Let it all out, and then you're clear. You're all clear for when you go and sit down on your trade. That's the idea. What do you think about that? What is that? Is that similar to what you were saying? It sounded like it was a similar idea.
Yeah, I don't. I work a lot in when I'm trading in online groups where we're posting our entries and our the outcomes of the trades and discussing ideas as we go along, and that kind of helps.
But that's different, right?
I think it's different, I think it's about having someone actually there face to face with you.
Oh, right. So you're not talking about even just having an accountability partner you talk to every week or whatever. You're talking about like a face to face kind of interaction, right?
Yeah. I think I think it's the actual, I don't know. I think it would help if you were actually face to face with people and were discussing the trading as it went along. So it's quite hard to put your finger on, but I think there's subtle differences there than just sharing results online.
Yeah. I think what you're talking, it sounds like to me, what I'm hearing is it's more about the experience and sort of the experience of the trades rather than the sterile stats or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I could say, look, these are the precise rules to my trading plan. There's no discretion at all. This is how I'm going to trade, okay? And then at the end of the week, I could just post my results. Now, if anyone wanted to check my results with very strict rules, no discretion, and saying, okay, this is what I'm trading on this time frame, you could go back and you could verify my results, okay? But people would then say stuff like, well, I actually want to see your account. Share your account. Show me your actual trade report. And I think when it's online, there's like a level of distrust, I think, which is quite hard to overcome. And I think when you're face to face with people, that's slightly different. I think we can, read people fairly well.
Right. It sounds like UFOs. Like if I only had the scrap of UFO metal, I would know that it was a real UFO or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like a never-ending. You're always trying to overcome the next barrier or proof or whatever. Yeah. Do you think that people, when they meet with another trader, do you think that they get more out of the ideas and the exchange of ideas with the other trader, or simply kind of unloading the emotions of the experience of trading?
I don't think it even needs to be another trader,
Just another person.
Just another person, I think.
Yeah. But what if they don't understand trading? I mean, traders often feel isolated, like, oh, my wife doesn't trade, she doesn't understand,
I think you're probably just over-egging their skill and knowledge there. I think most people understand trading,
Right.
Most people understand. I mean, we kind of get bogged down in all the technicals, like we're being scientists and we're being really smart and clever. Yeah. But, you're taking bets. You're gambling, When I first explained what I did to my Thai girlfriend, I went into this long, drawn-out thing, and I had to use some translations online to try and explain what I did, and then she just turned around to me and said, "Oh, you're a gambler." Yeah. So I think most people understand. I think really it's about the emotions that you're dealing with, and I think it's about verbalizing them as a tool to trade better, so you can, the actions that you take based on the emotions you're feeling become more rational. How so? Because, okay, let's say that I trade a 50% win rate, and every 100 trades I'm expected to get 10 consecutive losers, okay? And my data backs that up, and I still have a positive expectancy, okay? Now, regardless of that fact, if you've taken 4 or 5 consecutive losers on the trot, there's a possibility that that's going to affect your actions. And if you were able to sit down with somebody and say, and them just say, okay, how's trading going? And you could just say, well, I just had 5 losers this morning, no winners at all. I've had 5 losers. And they're likely to turn around and say, well, is that bad? And you're in a dialogue to start considering the data rather than just how you're feeling, because you will be feeling rotten no matter how good a trader you are. You're gonna be feeling some level of rottenness in there for your 5 losers that morning. But I think just that dialogue helps you to start to consider the bigger picture. You kind of break out of the little vacuum that your emotions have sucked you into. I quite often have 3 losers on a Monday. My Monday it's a bit of a sort of in-joke in my Facebook group. When Monday comes to the end and I post up results for the day, 3 losses. It's a bit of an in-joke, But I could react badly to that, but I've kind of grown to accept it's part of the process. I think that's somewhere that you need to get to.
What if you just don't have it? I mean, is there
What, 3 losers?
No. What if you just don't have that ability, or you just feel like you're never going to get there? Should some people just throw it in and say, well, okay, maybe this is not for me?
I think we've all got the ability.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've many more abilities than we give ourselves credit for. But is there a trader who probably shouldn't push on, even though, we have faith? That's the question, I guess. We have faith. Yeah.
You like this question. I know you really like this question because you push me on it all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really know enough to be able to answer that question. Is the honest answer, but
right, who should quit trading?
Yeah, but my gut feeling is that the majority of people can become good traders. But I'm kind of basing that on because I don't think the skills are really that hard to learn. It's more a case of becoming aware of them. And I think sooner or later, most of us kind of look down those alleyways. For some of us, it takes longer than others, and certainly some people will never go there. But I think even if you've been losing consistently for 3 or 4 years and you've blown up every small account that you've started, I think there comes a point where you will say, okay, look, I've been round this roundabout 1,000,000 times. Maybe I'll start reading some different information and taking some different ideas on board. I don't know. Am I oversimplifying it there? Are there some people that will just blindly keep banging away at what doesn't work? I know we all do that for much longer than we should, but my gut feeling is that sooner or later people are going to say, okay, look, these ideas I've been trying are just not working. I need to look at some different ideas and information. I don't know. Am I missing the picture there?
Okay, that's all the time we have for today. In the next episode, in part 2, you're going to hear about what traders can learn from the UK pension fund, how to reduce overwhelm when it comes to your trading goals, the retired trader who is a hazard on the roads and why, the motivation behind trading that's nearly universal for all traders and perhaps for you as well, why you must look into this one thing when you're setting your trading system up and going live, and what businesses going bust have to do with traders. And we'll also talk about the best band. All that and more in the next episode, part 2 of the Two Traders Podcast.